Hello everyone and welcome! We are here at the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown on our Revolution War era farm. I am Gretchen, this is Sarah, and today we're going to talk just a little bit about dyeing or putting color on textiles in a farm setting in the 18th century. So come on, let's get started. So although every color is available to dye in the 18th century, today we chose to do madder, or actually we're doing madder root. So we're taking the root of a plant called madder, and yesterday we simmered it down. So we put it in water and we put it on heat. And if you notice the difference in the ones that have been sitting in water and simmering, they're a lot softer and the color has been kind of released from it. So what's neat about the madder plant, or one of the neat things about the madder plant, is that it's been used since ancient times. So it comes from the Eastern Mediterranean area or Persia, but it's invasive and grows well in other areas, including Tidewater, Virginia. So by the time of the American Revolution, they would have or could have been growing this in their gardens, especially during wartime. So one of the most expensive things about your clothing in the 18th century is the fabric itself. So a great or cheap or inexpensive way to refresh your outfit is to have it dyed or over dyed. And dyeing is definitely a profession. So it's possible that you would study 7 years to be a professional dyer, but it's also something that people could do at home, just kind of like today. So they might call it plantation or home dyeing at the time. And madder is one of the few dyes that both professionals and people at home are using at the time. And it's also something that is not as expensive as something like cochineal or Brazil wood. And it's pretty long lasting too, so it's very color permanent. And you see a lot of uniforms and flags that have a madder base for their red. So if you come to the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown and you see the soldiers in the Continental Army encampment, they're wearing an indigo blue coat. And it's made of wool, and the facings are red, and they are usually dyed with madder. So if you are an officer, yours might be dyed with cochineal or have a cochineal base, but for those enlisted men, madder is the base for that red. And the same for the British soldiers. So a lot of those enlisted men are wearing a madder-based wool coat.
So today we have two different types of fibers that we're going to be dyeing. One of them is a protein fiber. The skein of yarn that I have in my hands is wool. And so wool is a protein fiber. It comes from animals. Things like silk. Silk comes from silkworms. That's also a protein fiber. And then in addition to that, we have cellulose fibers. So my kerchief today is made out of cotton. That's a cellulose fiber. We're going to be dyeing a couple of kerchiefs. So the reason why that matters when you are dyeing things is because generally protein fibers take and hold dye a little bit better than cellulose fibers. So you would put that into account when you want to figure on what you're going to want as your finished product, your finished color, because you're going to get brighter, more vibrant colors with protein fibers and slightly more muted tones with cellulose fibers.
So for all the fibers that we dyed with today, we pre-treated them with a mordant. And a mordant can be different salt metals. Sometimes it's something toxic like arsenic and sugar of lead, and sometimes it's a little less scary like tannic acid that's found naturally in things like acorns and walnuts, or alum, which you might be familiar with today if you've ever done any pickling. You can find alum in the spice aisle. So today we used alum because it doesn't give it any kind of tint ahead of time. You can dye it really whatever color you want and you don't have to worry about that. So we soaked the yarn and the cotton scarves in alum and heated that up for a little bit, and then the dye will attach to it way better. So it's not going to necessarily change the color. It could help a little bit, it might brighten it or something depending on what you're using, but more than that, the dye is just sticking to that fiber a lot better when you pre-treat it in the mordant.
One of the things you may have noticed if you have a woolen sweater or woolen garment in your closet is that the care tag says dry clean only. And a lot of people are under the impression that you can never get wool wet, that will ruin it. And so you might be wondering to yourself, how is it that we're able to get these things wet to prepare them for dye and get them wet in the dye pot and then wash them at the end of the day? And the answer to that is, as long as you don't have a severe change in temperature and shock the fiber, then usually it's okay. So for example, what that means is something like these woolen stockings, if I go from cold water to cold water or hot water to hot water, then it's usually fine. You're not shocking it from severely warm water to severely cold water. And that's what makes wool felt or shrink, is that severe change in temperature. So that is how we're going to be able to not only dye these, but we're going to be able to wash them at the end of the day. So speaking of washing the items that we've just dyed, we want to overshoot perhaps by 1 or 2 shades if we're really in love with the color. Because when we wash them, a little bit of this pigment that we've just put on there is going to wash away. And so to get the color that you want at the end of the day, you might have to kind of just overshoot the mark just by a little bit. Thanks for joining us today and learning about madder as a dye plant in the 18th century. If you like some of the items that you saw us dyeing today, the skeins of yarn will be for sale in the gift shop here at the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown. If you enjoyed our video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, we would love to see you out here in person here at the American Revolution Museum at Yorktown at our Revolution Era Farm. Thanks for watching.